Hey, what is going on? My name is Rubidium. I have made a whole bunch of videos about this camera that I'm shooting this on, the Canon C200B. I really love this camera. It's an awesome camera. I'm getting a great image from it. I'm having a great experience with it, but it is not a perfect camera. So today we're going to look at the 15 things that in the first month and a half of having this camera, I really wish it did differently. One, the lack of internal 10-bit 422 4K. This was obviously the biggest issue that people have with it. I've done videos about comparing the different modes. For a camera that shoots 4K RAW, not to shoot something smaller, more manageable, that Canon's $500 cameras can shoot is just crazy. It's a weird limitation on such an advanced piece of camera gear, and the reason clearly is Canon's trying to protect their higher end C300 line or C700 line. I get why they did it. I think it would have been a better idea just for them to make the best camera they could for the lowest amount of money they could and got sales that way. There is a workaround for this, but none of which is really satisfactory. You can use an external recorder to record 10-bit ProRes, but only in 2K, not in 4K. I think it was kind of disingenuous of Canon to say there's a new release coming next year, a new firmware upgrade that'll let you record a different type of codec. Everyone assumed that would be 10-bit, but now we seem to be getting rumors, and some of Canon people in Canon have confirmed it, that it's just going to be another version of 8-bit, and it's only going to go to the SD cards, not the CFast card. Another problem with this camera, no affordable native EVF or electronic viewfinder. EVFs are great. Different people have them out there for different cameras. Canon offers one, but it costs more than the camera itself. It's meant for their high-end C300 and C700. They don't have an affordable electronic viewfinder for this camera, which is a shame. If you want to get an EVF, you can use the Zacuto Gradical system, but then you need external power for it. The only EVF that runs natively off the camera and has power with the image is this Canon one that is ridiculously overpriced. 3, this camera has a very strange 4K format. When you shoot 4K and you work in a 16:9 frame, which is what almost everyone's television is, what everyone's computer screen is, you get these tiny black bars at the top. It's not 235, but it's weird that they selected this sort of odd aspect ratio for the highest amount of resolution that the camera could do. This camera has an SDI output, it has an HDMI output, but you can't get an image from both of them at the same time, which would have been great to have 2 monitors connected, or have a monitor connected for the operator and then use a transmitter and receiver for the HDMI output. If you plug one in, the other one's disabled. You can get a waveform monitor over the SDI, but if you connect your monitor through HDMI, there's no waveform monitor. The same goes for LUTs. You can put a Rec 709 LUT over the SDI image, but not over the HDMI image. This camera has only single slot recording for its main and most important format, the raw light to the CFast cards. With only one slot, you are limited by the size of your CFast card. So if you want to record a 40-minute interview, you need to have a 40-minute CFast card, which at the moment they cost $1,000. If you had 2 slots, you could have 2 cheaper CFast cards in and swap them out dynamically like the C300 lets you do. But with only one slot, you're kind of locked in, and you will eventually have to cut to change cards. This camera shoots a variety of formats. It shoots Rec 709, it shoots the original YDR, it shoots C-Log, which is also known as C-Log 1, it shoots C-Log 2, and it shoots C-Log 3. So it shoots 4 different flavors of log, but you can only look at 2 of them. The widest dynamic range, C-Log 2, there's no way to monitor it. There's no way to display it on the camera as you film with it. You can look at C-Log3, which is almost as wide a dynamic range, but there's no way to see C-Log2, so there's no way to expose for it, there's no way to get a sense of what the camera's capturing. You can only debayer the raw light into C-Log2 in post. You can never actually see it. They gave us plebeian filmmakers C-Log2 and we should just be happy for it. We don't need to monitor it, we can just guess the exposure or use a light meter and work it out in post. You can't send RAW out of this camera as far as I'm aware. There doesn't seem to be any mode for sending the RAW image, only keeping it in the card, which is internally. It's great that it does it internal. The C300 and the C700 are able to export RAW out over the SDI. This camera does not. So it means that you can never use the bigger external RAW recorder like you might like to on set on a feature film to capture footage all day or have an internal backup or anything like that. You're stuck with, if you want RAW light, that's the only kind of RAW you can get. You can only have it in the camera, only as big as the card is. Last couple of things. This camera does not have false color. This camera does not allow you, or at least I haven't worked out how to load LUTs into the camera. You can't shoot footage, grid it in Resolve, export a LUT, put it into the camera, and then monitor your exposure. This is the way that a lot of people work with the Alexa. Roger Deakins specifically, he makes a LUT that he likes, puts it in the Alexa, and then essentially just shoots the whole film exposed as he wants to with the LUT. Then they apply the LUT to the footage at the end of the day, and that's the grade. Not everyone wants to work like Roger Deakins or can work like Roger Deakins. He's an incredible cinematographer, but it would be nice to at least put these LUTs into the camera. Now, the way I work around this is by using the Blackmagic Video Assist, which has false color, it has histograms, it has all kinds of great monitoring, it has the ability to load a LUT into the camera. So I'm using it right here to monitor this into the like a C-Log3 LUT to Rec 709 that I put on the camera, and it works a lot better, has some grade to it, works a lot better I found than the Rec 709 internal, which again you can only use over SDI, not HDMI. So the last and final problem that I have with this camera is is it 120 frames per second or 200 and something frames per second? The super slow-mo that will only record to the SD card, there's no way of getting it raw. It's a MP4 420 8-bit image, and it's terrible. I mean, I couldn't use it really. I mean, I've shot stuff in it when I was excited by it, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's really compressed. I guess because they only let you send it to the SD card, and the SD card doesn't have the bandwidth that the CFast card has, doesn't have the data transfer rate, it means that it really has to compress it to get it onto that card. And as a result, it looks really crunchy. It looks like the sort of super slow motion that you get on the iPhone 7, which I have, which is great, you know, it's slow motion, but it's really compressed. To shoot a project in the raw light and then have a shot pop up that's in slow motion, that's you know, really crunchy and JPEGy and all kinds of problems. The way I work around this is I use the raw light 60p that I then slow down in post to 23.976, and then if I need it slower again, I'll use post-processing and pixel blending to slow the footage down. But I think most of the time you really can get away with this, and that means you get a raw file, beautiful color, no compression or very little compression, and a nice slow motion. So that's my roundup of the kind of C200 fails. Hope that helps someone out there. I have to just say this again and again, still an amazing camera. Easy to work around a lot of these shortcomings. And I'm still getting a great deal out of it. I feel like Canon can improve a lot of these things with a firmware upgrade. And, you know, it would be so easy for them to enable 4K 10-bit output. They don't even have to put it in the camera. We can use an external recorder, that's fine. It just make it a possibility. It just opens up a whole new world of uses for this camera. So there are my thoughts. Hopefully someone out there found them useful and interesting. See you next time.